Palestine. For 11 months, British-made weapons have poured down on the peoples of Palestine and Lebanon. For 11 months, we, the global solidarity movement, have united in support of the Palestinian people's struggle. Day after day, week after week, we have gathered to send a message so loud that it can be heard in every corner of the world. And after 11 months of genocide, we gather again today with a message for Starmer's government. Our determination to break the murderous connection between our government and Israel's genocide is only growing stronger. We are here to say that there can be no justice at home as long as British weapons, British factories, and British politicians enable the most unimaginable crimes against humanity. At every step, we have faced growing repression from the British state and from the police. The police tried to stop us from marching as we had planned towards the Israeli embassy today. Well, here we are once again in our hundreds of thousands. Our movement will always fight back stronger. And there is nothing that any politician or police officer can do when they are faced with the clear justice of our cause. Now this week, thousands of children and education workers across the country returned to school after the summer break. And as we did so, we held in our thoughts the 15,000 children in Gaza and over 400 of their teachers who will never return to school. Everything that we do as part of this movement is for them, for their friends, for their siblings, and for the next generation of Palestinian children. A generation who will never know the sound of a bomb falling. A generation who will return to their family homes. And a generation who will love and learn and one day bring beautiful new life in their liberated homeland. Our movement will stand with Palestine until liberation and return. And we must not forget that we are moving closer and closer to that day. And when it comes, it will be a victory not just for this movement, but for every movement that fights for human rights and for dignity anywhere in the world. The day that Palestine is free is the day that all of us are free, because the Palestinian people fight for each and every one of us. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. And in our millions, in our billions. In our millions, in our billions. Our first speaker today is the MP for Poplar and Limehouse. Please give a very warm welcome to Ipsana Begum.
Every day, every hour, more atrocities are being committed in Gaza. Israel is also expanding its military operations in the occupied West Bank. The difference in the value placed on human life globally against the value placed on Palestinian life is very clear for all to see. What is happening in Gaza challenges the very notion of the commitment of Western powers to human rights and dignity. Because what they have been willing to do is not only turn a blind eye, but actively actively facilitate their ally, Israel, to pursue their foreign policy interests. So this week's announcement from the government may be a step forward, but for the 41,000 plus civilians killed by Israel, supported by the UK, it is too late and it is too little. For those in Gaza now suspending less than 10% of the UK's arms licenses to Israel is simply not enough. All arms and supporting technologies going to Israel to be used against civilians must be stopped. We need justice for what has been done. That must not only include an immediate and lasting ceasefire, it must also include an immediate and unconditional recognition of the state of Palestine. We will continue to come together for as long as is needed. We will continue to hold power accountable. The Palestinian solidarity movement is diverse and it is multicultural. It is a cause of humanity and hope in defiance of the scale of what is happening. We stand together on the right side of history because our struggles for liberation are connected, because none of us are free until all of us are free. Free, free! Free, free! Thank you, solidarity!
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Our next speaker is the General Secretary of PCS, the Union, representing over 200,000 public sector workers in the UK. Please give a very warm welcome to Fran Heathcote.
Friends, it is a pleasure to bring solidarity from my union, PCS. I'm immensely proud that PCS has for many years led the cause in the trade union movement in demanding peace and justice for the people of Palestine in Gaza and the West Bank. And we have been absolutely clear. Until Palestine is a free and independent nation, we will continue marching, we will continue protesting, and we will continue to back the campaign of boycott, divestment and sanctions. I want to pay tribute to everyone who has made the protests so large against war crimes and ethnic cleansing that we are witnessing in Gaza and the West Bank. And let me tell you, I've just walked up through the counter demonstration. It is tiny. We cannot be bystanders though. We cannot walk by on the other side. 57 years of illegal occupation, decades now of settlement building and ethnic cleansing that goes with it, and the atrocities of Israel's Gaza onslaught in which over 40,000 people have been killed. But our government has stood by. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said he believes in the international rule of law. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, supports the International Criminal Court as a cornerstone of the international legal system, whether that's in Ukraine, Sudan, Syria or Gaza. Well, if you believe in the international rule of law, then you apply it. And if you respect it, then you follow up with action, not just empty words. The horrific reports coming out of the West Bank in recent weeks demonstrate what happens when you turn a blind eye and you condone war crimes. Netanyahu and the terrorist settler movement have been empowered to extend their ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. There is no moral or legal case not to ban all arms sales to Israel immediately. We are complicit. We are complicit, just as a dealer who sells a knife or a gun to a common criminal is complicit. When the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for war crimes against Benjamin Netanyahu and Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, then we should be asking our government, where is the full arms embargo? Where are the sanctions? When the International Court of Justice rules, as it did in July, that the Israel occupation of Palestine is illegal, that Israel must dismantle its settlements and provide full reparation to Palestinian victims and facilitate the return of displaced people, again, we should be asking our government, where are the sanctions? Where is the arms embargo? Where is the expulsion of Israeli diplomats? PCS members work in government departments that grant weapons licences, and if the government doesn't respect international law, we will continue to explore the possibility of taking legal action in defence of our members. So we will continue to campaign and support campaigns to change and toughen government policy. But as successive governments stand by as Palestinians are murdered, it is we the people, our unions, our councils, in our workplaces and as individuals who have to speak out, protest and campaign. And that is why PCS is so proud to support a people-powered campaign of boycott, divestment and sanctions against the state that has illegally occupied Gaza and the West Bank for 57 years and that is committing war crimes on a daily basis against Palestinian people. And that is why my union is proud to support the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. We will continue to campaign for an end to the killing, an end to the occupation and the dismantling of the settlements and a free and independent Palestine. Solidarity, comrades.
Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! Now our next speaker needs no introduction. He's the Palestinian ambassador to the UK. Please make some noise for Husam Zomlot!
My God, what a sight! What a sight! What energy! What a vibe! What a sense of unity! What a sense of humanity and justice! My friends, 11 months of war crimes, of mass murder, of mass destruction, 11 months of genocide. And here we still are. And Israel still murders with impunity. And the world still watches in horror and in impotence. But my friends, horrendous the last 11 months are. This is not just about the last 11 months. It's about the past 76 years. It is about the last 76 years. It is about a Zionist project that wielded lies like a land without a people for a people without a land. Demanded exclusive ownership over our land, over the land of Palestine. This ultimately resulted in the ethnic cleansing of 2/3 of the Palestinian people from our land, our homes, our farms, our lives in 1948. Ever since Israel was allowed to act with total, utter impunity. From its illegal military occupation of the rest of Palestine in 1967, through its illegal settlement project, its brutal military suppression, its abhorrent apartheid rule, through it all, Israel has never, ever been held to an account. And that is why we are where we are today, my friends. That is why we are all witnessing genocide committed by this country that has enjoyed full impunity. Watching an Israeli genocide unfold in Gaza for nearly a year. A genocide and mass destruction that is now spreading to the West Bank. My friends, Israel has no plan that includes the Palestinian people. Israel has only one plan: the complete erasure of the Palestinian people. Listen to what Netanyahu says when he says that his proudest moment is to prevent a Palestinian state from emerging, when he vows to expand the illegal colonial settlements at speed. Read their government coalition agreement, where it says all the land of historic Palestine, including the West Bank, is described as the exclusive right of the Jewish people. It is, my friends, a vision of indefinite occupation, of continued Jewish supremacy, and continued dehumanization of the Palestinian people. And it is a vision of constant violence, constant murder. It is a vision of ethnic cleansing, and now it is a vision of genocide. But for 76 years, Israel has failed. Israel has failed. It has failed. It has failed to eradicate us in 1948. We are here. It failed to destroy us in 1967. It failed to wipe us out in Lebanon in 1982. And despite the horrors of the genocide in Gaza, it has failed to erase us from Gaza. And it will not succeed. It will never succeed, because we will not let it succeed. You know why, my friends? Because we, the Palestinian people, are stubborn like the ancient roots of our olive trees. We refused, and we will continue to refuse leaving our land. إنا باقون كما بقي الزعتر والزيتون. As the thyme and olives remain, we remain. We remain in Gaza. We remain in Jerusalem. We remain in Jenin. We remain in Tulkarem. We remain in Khalil. We remain in Jaffa. We remain in Haifa. And I tell you one thing, the more than half of us in exile, and many of them with you, the Palestinian refugees and diaspora, remain holding in our right to return to our homes and farms. And that Israel will not succeed also because of you. You, the hundreds of thousands, the millions, the tens of millions, the billions in the world. Because of your principled position, because of your consistent energy and action, and in your thousands, in your millions, in your thousands, in your millions, And we are also supported by the law. By the law. And you all followed the ICJ ruling. Israel's occupation is unlawful. Israel's settlements are war crimes. Israel need to leave. Leave now. Now. And my friends, all third parties, that is the International Court of Justice ruling, all third parties must end any political, legal, and material support to Israel's illegal occupation. This, my friends, means the following, the ruling of the International Court of Justice. It is we, the Palestinian people, who have the right to self-defense. We have the right to self-defense, not the occupier. Every act that Israel does and undertakes in the occupied territory is an act of aggression. And every country that does not heed the ICJ is complicit. Complicit! All we ask of the British government is that it complies with the law, with the British law and with the international law. We need a full arms embargo now. What do we want? What do we want? We need sanctions now. What do we want? What do we want? We demand accountability. What do we want? What do we want? And we need recognition now. Recognize now. What do we want? Only then, my friends, we ensure that we finally on the irreversible path to a free Thank you.
Free! Our next speaker is the General Secretary of the National Education Union, here today representing over 500,000 education workers in the UK. Please give a very warm welcome to Daniel Kabedi.
This week, many children across the UK and in many parts of the world returned to school. For the children of Gaza, there is no such respite from the relentless war that has blighted their young lives for almost a year now. Palestinians place a high value on the education of their children and young people. 625,000 children in Gaza have been denied their inalienable right to education since October the 7th last year. Now we are in a second school year in which there is no prospect for peace, no prospect for returning to school, no respite from the relentless bombardment that has terrorized their young lives. Scholasticide has taken place in Gaza. The destruction of all education infrastructure with the deliberate targeting of schools and universities and the indiscriminate killing of children and their teachers. Almost 10,000 school children have been killed, along with over 400 of their teachers. According to NGOs working in Gaza, 93% of their schools, which have specific protections under international law, have sustained damage. 156 UNRWA schools have been hit directly or damaged, despite the fact that many are providing refuge for displaced people. All of 12 of Gaza's universities have been bombed, leaving 88,000 students unable to continue their education. 90% of the Palestinian population displaced. Over 40,000 killed, 94,000 injured. Many more missing beneath the rubble. How long must this be allowed to continue? We need a ceasefire now. The ICJ has ruled that there is a credible case that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. The UK must now ban all arms sales to Israel, not merely the token number announced by the new Foreign Secretary David Lammy last week. My union, the National Education Union, will continue to stand up for the Palestinian people. We will continue to advocate for the rights of children and the right to education. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Now, I'm really pleased to be able to bring you our first estimate of the number of people that are out on the streets today. And in the crowd today, there are at least 125,000 people. Our next speaker is here today representing the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, one of the co-organisers of today's rally. Please give a very warm welcome to Sophie Bolt.
So yes, solidarity, greetings to you all from the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. I want to say a massive thank you to every one of you who's on this protest today. For nearly 11 months, you have kept up the pressure, calling on our governments to secure a ceasefire, to stop supporting Israel, a nuclear-armed state, waging genocide against the Palestinian people. It is our incredible determination to keep campaigning that has forced this new government to take action. So well done to you, renewing the funding for UNRWA. That's on us. Stopping the legal challenge to Netanyahu's arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court. That's on us. And perhaps our unified movement gave courage to Mark Smith, the brave whistleblower who resigned in protest at the government's failure to stop the deadly export licenses. And now David Lammy has withdrawn 30 of them. He has been forced to concede that Israel is violating international law. So now we have to redouble our efforts. We have to force this government to stop all arms sales to Israel. Especially the deadly F-35 fighter jets. We know these lethal fighter jets have massacred Palestinian people in so-called safe zones. And we know that US fighter jets and pilots based at Lakenheath here in Britain actively bolster Israel's deadly war and occupation against the Palestinian people. So let's keep up the pressure to make this government end its complicity in genocide. We refuse to be silenced. We refuse to stop marching. We will not stop until there is a ceasefire, until there is justice and freedom for the Palestinian people. Free, free Palestine! Thank you, solidarity.
Free, free! Palestine! 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 From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! I want everyone to put their flags and their placards high in the air when we chant, from the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! And in our thousands, in our millions! 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 What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? But it's not just a ceasefire that we want. We want to see a complete end to the arms sales to Israel. Not 30, a complete end. So when I say stop bombing Gaza, you say stop arming Israel. Stop bombing Gaza. Stop arming Israel. Stop bombing Gaza. 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 Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Now our next speaker is here representing Stop the War Coalition, one of the co-organisers of today's demonstration. Please make some noise for National Officer of Stop the War, Shabbir Lakha!
Comrades, sisters and brothers, today marks 11 months of Israel's genocide. This week, the government admitted what we always knew, that British weapons are being used to butcher Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Yet, they have suspended less than 10% of arms licenses. And David Lammy, boo, made it clear that this is not an arms embargo. Well, why the bloody hell not? What will it take for you depraved warmongers to stop arming Israel? Let us be clear that they have done even this tiny bit because of us. If it was up to the police, we wouldn't even be here right now. They have tried to disrupt and restrict every one of our protests. If it was up to them, we wouldn't be allowed to wave the Palestinian flag, and we wouldn't be allowed to chant, from the river to the sea. That the government is on the back foot, that we have 5 pro-Palestine independents in parliament now, that the police had to back down and they stand here today utterly humiliated is because we have a united, defiant mass movement that has stood firm, that has insisted on staying on the streets, and that is why they can't stop us. Every time that we demonstrate, we are stopping their attacks on our right to protest, and we are showing the British state that we are a force to be reckoned with, that we are the voice of the majority, and this is what democracy looks like. It is not that multi-millionaire Islamophobe Nigel Farage or that Nazi scum Tommy Robinson who represent the working class. It's us. Because working people know that the same people that claim that there's no money for winter fuel payments for the elderly, that there's no money to scrap the abysmally cruel 2-child benefit cap, there's no money to fund our NHS, there's no money for non-flammable cladding on Grenfell. These are the same people that have endless money to send weapons to Israel. They have endless money to send weapons to Ukraine. The only black hole, Keir Starmer, is in your humanity. So we will keep marching. We will take the fight to the Labour Party at their conference in Liverpool on the 21st. Our students are planning to walk out in October, and we will be back on the streets of London in the biggest numbers on the 12th of October. And yes, we need to do more. We do it by getting organized. And I urge you all to join the Stop the War Coalition and ensure that our movement is organized, united, and in the streets, in every community, in every trade union, in every town and city. Because I'll tell you this, and I'll end with it. These are our streets. It was on these streets that we won all of the rights that we have. And it is on these streets that with a Palestinian flag in our hands and a keffiyeh around our necks, we will break British imperialism. And we will boot out every morally bankrupt politician that is facilitating this genocide out of political life. And we won't stop fighting until all the arms sales have ended, until there is a ceasefire, until that terrorist Israeli ambassador has been expelled. And we won't stop until Palestine has been liberated. So keep fighting, stay on the streets, solidarity.
Thank you, Shabbir. Free, free. Palestine. Free, free. Palestine. Free, free. Palestine. Our next speaker is someone who has been campaigning against apartheid for decades. He's the founder and chair of Friends of Al-Aqsa, one of the co-organisers of today's protest. So please give a very warm welcome to Dr. Ismail Patel.
Assalamu alaikum. Over the past 76 years, Israel has been systematically dehumanizing the Palestinian people living between the river and the sea. This dehumanization process has made it possible for the genocide in Gaza. The dehumanization of Palestinians by Israel and its allies depicts Palestinians as animals, vermins, and dangerous Muslims. It has created an atmosphere where Palestinian lives do not matter. This narrative enables Israel to kill with impunity innocent children like Mahmoud al-Dura or Hind Rajab. It is also this Israeli dehumanizing narrative that is used to justify the violence against Palestinians worldwide. The Palestinians, in their resistance to the dehumanization, yearn for justice and freedom. The Palestinian struggle is to recover their stolen humanity. However, despite the military power, when Israelis failed to have an ounce of sympathy for the killing of more than 40,000 Palestinians, Israelis dehumanize themselves. When Israel celebrates the raping of Palestinian prisoners, Israel dehumanizes itself. When Israel records selfies of blowing up homes and torturing children, Israel dehumanizes itself. When Israel composes songs encouraging genocide, Israel dehumanizes itself. It is therefore our responsibility to restore the humanity of the oppressed Palestinians. We must stop the oppressive Israeli state and its powerful allies from continuing this barbarity, because it is only in Palestinians gaining their humanity that Israel can recover its humanity. It is precisely because of this that the majority of the wild population don't want to be part of Israeli dehumanizing circus and are saying, from the river to the sea. To me, my friends, this slogan means people of all faiths and none between the river and the sea can reside free of racism, free of subjugation, free of the apartheid wall, free from the siege, free from the terror. We must continue saying from the river to the sea until Israel stops dehumanizing itself and robbing Palestinians of their humanity. Because of this, it is the only way we can protect our humanity. So let the slogan from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, ring from every city, every town, every village. Let it be a means of empowering our humanity to end Israeli inhumanity and to reclaim Palestinian humanity. So please repeat after me, from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is the MP for Hayes and Harlington. Please give a very warm welcome to John McDonnell.
I just want a few sentences of calm sadness. We've watched over this nearly a year now all the pictures of suffering in Gaza and now on the West Bank, the people being brutally murdered and the loss of children's lives, and behind that, so many now maimed and suffering appalling injuries. In addition to that, we've sent our solidarity, we've sent our sad grief to all those who've lost. But in addition, there are a group of people as well that we need to pay tribute to as well, because there have been peace and solidarity campaigners from across the world who've gone to Palestine, who've gone to Gaza, who've gone to the West Bank in heroic solidarity. And over the years, many have lost their lives. I want to pay tribute to another. You will have seen on Friday that an American-Turkish dual national, her name was Aysenur Erci Eci. She was a 26-year-old young woman. She was a member of the International Solidarity Movement, which has mobilized people to go to the West Bank in particular and stand alongside Palestinians to protect them as best they can from the attacks from the settlers and from the Israeli Defense Force. On Friday, she did that. And she was shot in the head. She was taken to the hospital near Nablus, and she died. I want us today to pay tribute to the heroic courage she displayed and to send to her family our deepest sympathy and condolences for what sacrifice she made for peace and for justice for the Palestinian people. But I also want us to reassure her family and all those families of Palestinians that have suffered and lost members of their family, that we will bring to justice these war criminals who are perpetrating these crimes, and that includes Netanyahu, who is a war criminal that deserves justice against him. Finally, let me just say this. I want to just say thank you. Thank you for everybody who's mobilized week in, week out in this campaign. You have shifted this government, not far enough, but you've shifted it with your determination. And I want to thank you because you've given me one of the proudest moments of my life, just to walk alongside you. Solidarity.
In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! In our millions, in our billions! Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Now our next speaker is the Member of Parliament for Dewsbury and Batley. He's part of the newly formed Independent Alliance, working hard in Parliament not only to stand up for the Palestinian people and against the genocide in Gaza, but also to oppose the far right and Labour's austerity agenda. Please make some noise for Iqbal Mohamad!
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters and friends. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on you all. It's been 11 long, never-ending months since Israel's explicitly stated assault and genocide on Gaza. 11 long months where tens of thousands of innocent men, women, children have been brutally, barbarically, and mercilessly killed on an industrial scale. A scale which is unparalleled this century. A scale which history books will remember as one of the most brutal, cruel, inhumane massacres we have witnessed and allowed to happen with impunity by Israel. Every single state in the world that had any power to reduce the number of dead even by one and didn't do anything is complicit in Israel's genocide in Gaza and now the West Bank. It has been 2 months since I stood at this stage after my election, when the Palestinian death toll stood at over 33,000. Over 2 months since a previous mendacious, malicious, austerity-inflicting, civil liberty destroying, racist and genocide-supporting Tory government was emphatically rejected for a Labour government elected with one of the largest majorities but on the smallest share of the popular vote in history. Despite Labour's missteps and the condoning of the collective punishment in opposition, there was hope that it would follow through on its stated commitment to enforce international law and the rules-based order. There was hope that Labour would follow through on its promise to immediately recognize the state of Palestine when, as soon as it came into government. We are still waiting. There was hope that it would publish the legal advice on why arms sales were still being allowed to Israel to commit the genocide, which is still ongoing. We are still waiting for that legal advice. There was hope that they would take meaningful action to immediately help stop the killing and achieve a permanent ceasefire. We are still waiting for that to happen. They have finally funded UNRWA, started refunding UNRWA, but there was hope that they would facilitate the safe transfer of all humanitarian aid, water, equipment, fuel and power, and all essentials of life for saving lives in Palestine. We are still waiting. They have supported, and we were hoped they would support the case at the ICJ brought by South Africa against Israel for genocide. We are still waiting. There was hope that this government would help our allies by reminding them of their international obligations and convincing them to stop breaching international laws, including the supplying of weapons, supplies used to perpetrate the genocide. Labour's recent declaration to suspend the arms licenses for 30 out of over 350 is welcome, but is not enough. We know there is overwhelming evidence of the genocide happening in Gaza, and the government must suspend all arms sales to Israel from now. Let us continue to, let me pledge with you to continue campaigning for the liberation of Palestine, where all people, Muslim, Christian, Jew, can live together in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Iqbal.
I think I know most of them.
Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Our next speaker is a human rights activist and a leading young Palestinian voice. She is the people's choice for Ilford North. Please give a very warm welcome to Leanne Mohamad.
In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. Sisters and brothers, no matter how much they try to intimidate us, threaten us and bully us, we will continue to march. We are here. We will not stop, and no force will ever be able to silence us. So tell me, will they silence us? No! Will they silence us? No! Keir Starmer, David Lammy, how much more do you need to see before you acknowledge publicly what you already know? That Israel is perpetuating a genocidal assault on the Palestinian people. For all your talk of compassion, your so-called progressive realism, your empty calls for a ceasefire and a two-state solution, for all the rhetoric, we all know that Israel is getting away with murder on an industrial scale. And in fact, you aid them, you provide logistical support, you provide spy planes, you arm them, you give them diplomatic cover. You are Israel, and Israel is you. Palestinian lives are an inconvenient truth for you. We don't matter. Your imperial world, for which you've compromised every value to reach the grubby offices of state, requires an Israel at the heart of the Middle East. And this world needs a Labour Party beholden to this crooked order, one that allows murder with an equitable smile, one that appoints a shameless foreign secretary who masquerades as a humanitarian. David Lammy, we see through your pathetic so-called arms embargo. Just enough to claim that you've responded to the legal advice, cutting out 30 of 350 weapons of war. You know this will make no difference to the genocide, yet you believe that we will be fooled by this superficial gesture. Who do you think we are? The Labour government also only sent out condolences when Israeli hostages die, because again, only some lives matter. Yet Israel has kidnapped over 10,000 Palestinians from the West Bank since and before the 7th of October, held in the most brutal administrative detention, many of whom are women and children. But your so-called humanitarian values can't afford even a message of rebuke to a psychopathic regime. This is how much you've sold your soul, Lammy, to a racist enterprise. And then there's the steady annexation occupation of Palestinian land, all of which doesn't even solicit a murmur from this repulsive government. And when it does, it's just enough to claim that Labour is on the side of justice. This is not a Labour party, it's another Tory party. Two sides of the same rusty coin. Always remember what they did and never forget. Sisters and brothers, we feel pain, but let this pain turn into rage. Let this rage turn into action, and let this action inspire others. Let this inspiration make new leaders, leaders who will never give up, always believe, always remain active, and don't accept the status quo. Instead, make this past year, however painful, a moment in our lives where we vow to change the world and to wipe away this facade of a political establishment. We will never be silenced. Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Thank you.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Now our next speaker is here representing another of the co-organisations of today's rally. Please make some noise for Faris Ahmed representing the Palestine Forum in Britain.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to thank you on behalf of the Palestinian Forum in Britain for your continued support of the valiant and steadfast people of Gaza. Gaza has exposed everything and everyone. Gaza has exposed our democracies. While the majority of Britons and Americans want a ceasefire, our governments refuse to put any meaningful pressure on the evil Zionists to end their genocide. This government thinks they can get away with blocking less than 10% of arms when F-35 warplanes are still raining hellfire on top of children. Who do they think they are? Gaza has also exposed the so-called enlightened West, which provides polio vaccines for children only to supply the evil Zionists with bombs to massacre them later. Disgusting. Gaza has exposed the so-called rules-based order, which convenes immediately after the deaths of 6 Israeli captives, but has not moved a muscle for the countless Palestinians being tortured, raped, and killed in Israeli prisons. And yet, while these truths have been exposed, the genocide still goes on. 11 months in, and yet every day there's a new disease outbreak. Every day there's a new massacre. Every day a new reason to prove that every single person involved belongs behind bars. And that's not only the Zionist leaders, that's also Keir Starmer. It's also Rishi Sunak, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. And in order to achieve justice, we must continue to work. Take, for example, the brave students taking their universities to tasks. Yes, these universities would prefer to sue their own students instead of divesting from genocide. Shame! Shame! We need to support these students every way we can. Do not lose hope. Do not give up. They want us to believe that we are insignificant. They want us to believe that we are powerless, but that is so far from the truth. In each and every one of you is the power to move mountains. In each and every one of you is the power to change history. Believe in your power, use your power, organize, take action, and we will see from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Thank you.
Okay, now the first thing I've got for you is a statement from Jeremy Corbyn, who's unable to be with us today because he's at a conference abroad. And he says, "Well done on defeating the efforts to silence us. We will never allow the Palestinian people to be silenced." This week, the UK government suspended 30 arms licenses. We need an end to all arms supplies and military facilities for Israel. 40,000 already dead in Gaza, alongside the killing of Palestinians in the West Bank and the condemnation by the World Court. We will stand with the Palestinian people for as long as it takes to end this occupation. Solidarity always. Jeremy Corbyn and the independent MPs. Now, the next pieces of information I have for you are really important, and those are the days of our next 2 demonstrations. So on the 21st of September in Liverpool, we will be taking this march to the doors of the Labour Party's conference. So please, book your coaches, book your train tickets. If you're here, we expect to see you in Liverpool in 2 weeks' time. And then, on October the 12th, we will be back here in central London. And that is one of the most important demos that we will have done. We'll be back on October the 12th to mark 1 year of Palestinian resistance to genocide. So please, do absolutely everything you can to be there. We're hoping that this is going to be the biggest demonstration in British history. Now, our next speaker is here today representing the Muslim Association of Britain, who are one of the co-organisers of today's march. So please give a very warm welcome to Ragad Al-Takriti.
Sisters, brothers, friends, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. History will remember that in the face of piles of massacred Palestinian bodies in the streets of Gaza, and in the face of testimony after testimony of Palestinians being tortured, raped, beheaded, and blown apart beyond recognition, our government failed. It did not use every tool at its disposal to stop the genocide. Instead, it suspended only 30 of the 350 arms exports that are actively being used to fuel this slaughter. History will remember that instead of standing on the right side of justice, the Labour Party, just like the Conservatives before them, chose to silence those speaking out against this state-sanctioned complicity in the most live-streamed genocide of our time. What more is there to say? What atrocities are left to commit? How many more children need to die? How many more families? How many more families will be buried alive under the rubble of their homes? How many more massacres? How many more bodies? How many more bodies need to pile up before Keir Starmer feels the weight of his inaction? The time for half measures, for polite diplomacy is over. Israel must be sanctioned, boycotted, and opposed in every way until the entire genocidal system is dismantled and the war criminals responsible are brought to justice. As we march today, let it be known, we will not be silenced. We will not be intimidated. And and we will not stop until Palestine is free from the river to the sea. Palestine is free from the river to the sea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ragad. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Our next speaker is here representing thousands of Jewish people in Britain who have joined the Jewish bloc on today's demonstration. So please give a warm welcome to Emily Stevenson.
Okay, if anyone's seen me speak before, you know what I'm going to say next. But respond to what I say as you would in Arabic. Shalom Aleichem, everyone! I always like doing that because it's such a nice moment of levity on what are often really, really depressing rallies. And I'm going to start today by talking about Ayşenur Ezgi Aygi. I don't know if anyone here has heard of her, but she was a Turkish-American peace activist with the International Solidarity Movement who was killed yesterday by the Israeli military. She was shot in the head, protesting against an illegal settlement in Beta. She was 26 years old, killed by a sniper for the crime of what? Asking the state of Israel to uphold the basic tenets of international law. But as the anti-occupation, anti-apartheid Israeli activist Jonathan Pollack said in an interview yesterday, with Ayşenur's blood still on his hands, she's not the only person that has been killed in Beta. Since 2021, 17 protesters have been killed there protesting against an illegal Israeli settlement. Since 2021, 17 of those protesters have been Palestinian. We can see the way in which the press manufactures consent for the deaths of Palestinians, and it would be remiss of me to not mention the deaths of Lebanese people in southern Lebanon as well. For shame. And we can see the way in which the media is manufacturing consent for Ayşenur's murder by repeatedly emphasizing her Turkish heritage as if that makes her any less worthy of life. And this isn't the first time that the IDF, IOF, Israeli military, call them what you want, we know what they are, occupiers, terrorists. This isn't the first time they have grievously injured activists, such as Kiva Butterfly, who was seriously injured in Jenin, protesting against occupation, such as Ian Hook, who was killed in Jenin in 2002, or Tom Herndal, who was killed in the exact same manner as Ayşenur, or James Miller, who was killed in Rafah in 2003, or Rachel Corrie, who was crushed to death by an IDF bulldozer trying to stop the Israeli military from destroying Palestinian homes in Gaza so they could settle Israelis in them. These are dark times. They're times for pragmatists. They're times for people who need to turn up in the streets. They're times for people who email their representatives. They're times for people who, I'm not going to finish that sentence because I might get in trouble, but they're times for people who take actions into their own hands. They're times for people who have uncomfortable conversations with family members, who blindly parrot Zionist talking points. They're times for people who've had enough, who've seen enough, who are tired of watching our government give carte blanche to the Israeli war machine. These are pragmatic times. But if I want to remind you of one thing, because things do seem hopeless right now, I know I personally have found it hard to wake up and see pictures of dismembered children, of babies covering their ears before they are killed in an airstrike. It's that we have to have hope. The tide is turning. We can bully this government into changing its mind. If not changing its mind, we can bully this government into making change. We can shame them. We can change things. And it feels hopeless. And you can't live on hope alone. But my God, do we have to have it right now? If not for ourselves, but for the people of Palestine. Thank you.
In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. In our millions, in our billions. Now our next speaker is a member of the Labour Party's National Executive Committee. She has been at the front of these demonstrations from the very beginning when others stayed away. She spoke at the first national demonstration last October, and she continues to lead dissent against Keir Starmer's complicity in the genocide. Please make some noise for Jess Barnard!
11 months we've been coming out here standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Almost 2 years ago, I had the absolute honour of visiting Palestine and being welcomed into the homes of Palestinians and hearing and witnessing account after account about the impact of the occupation and of apartheid. And we promised, and I promised, we would come back and tell their stories. We would come back and stand with them, and we would hold the people in my party and now the people in government to account. We would hold them to account for their complicity with apartheid and genocide, and we would speak up for a free Palestine. This week, my little brother was getting ready to go back to school for his final year at high school, just as millions of children in this country were heading back to school, a right to their education that we protect as sacred. But the children in Gaza have no school to go back to. They cannot return to their education. Israel has destroyed that right. This week I'm thinking of the children I met in the West Bank who were attacked by illegal settlers and the IDF while they walked to their local school. I'm thinking of the young children who live in refugee camps in the West Bank who said their act of resistance was refusing to leave the land on which they were born. Now, I don't know about our government, but I'm not okay living in a world where Palestinian children are killed and denied their right to an education while our country is complicit. So we will keep turning out, but we cannot just despair. We do not have the time to just sit and despair. Now is the time to ramp up the pressure on the new Labour government. And friends, we haven't been marching in vain, and don't let anybody tell you that. We have not been protesting in vain. Since we began marching in solidarity with Palestinians 11 months ago, you have forced the government to reinstate UNRWA funding, which had never been stopped. You have forced the government to end its opposition to the ICC arrest warrant of Netanyahu, the war criminal. Student occupations across the country have successfully held their universities to account and stood down the threats to stop them accessing their own education. We've seen local councils like Islington Council divesting millions from companies who have been complicit in the forced displacement of Palestinians from the West Bank. We've seen trade unionists in companies and organisations across the country forcing bosses to divest from companies complicit in genocide and apartheid. These would not have happened without you. Justice is not something that leaders can just give to us. It's something we have to organise for. It's something we have to fight for. And you are fundamental in making sure we win. But with a new Labour government in power, now is not the time to slow down. We need to ramp up that pressure, demand justice louder. We must build our movement bigger. And thanks to you, we have won a partial suspension of some arms to Israel, but we will not stop. We will not stop until every single British-made bomb, weapon or part used to take the life of another Palestinian children is stopped. We will not give up until those are stopped from sending them to Israel. So those in Gaza don't have a choice but to keep going, and we honour them by resolving to push harder. So don't despair, let's redouble our efforts. And to the Labour councillors, to my Labour colleagues, councillors and MPs who are told not to show up to these demonstrations and told not to speak against the government, now is the time to show up, speak up, hold our own party to account. Because we won't wait for Westminster to discover a conscience. Starmer, don't get comfortable, because we will hold you to account. Keir Starmer, you will see, Palestine will be free. Keir Starmer, you will see. Solidarity.
Free, free! Palestine! 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 Our next speaker is a journalist and filmmaker. You may have seen her in a Sky News interview talking about the Amazon Sky packages. So please give a warm welcome to Myriam François.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm speaking to you today as someone who, like many of you, no doubt, never imagined that we'd have to be here almost a year on. Through the seasons, both weather and life's changes, you've continued to show up as the moral conscience of this country, which has drifted so far from any ideals we might hope that it might represent. So the first thing I want to do today is thank you. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for continuing to be here, continuing to show up, continuing to be that conscience. Like many of you, I never imagined that we could see such gross and blatant violations of international law without any real repercussions. I never imagined that we could see children daily blown to pieces or shot by snipers, and that some of our compatriots would continue to try and defend these horrors. I never imagined that I would see journalists and health workers killed in record numbers and with such impunity and with such silence from our colleagues. Where are our colleagues? I never thought that I would see a prosecutor for the ICC publicly denounce death threats made against him, which seemingly impede him from issuing warrants for the arrest of the war criminals Netanyahu and Gallant. And I definitely never imagined that those conscientious objectors speaking out about these atrocities would be harassed and arrested under terrorism laws here in this country. I never imagined 11 months ago that the latest ethnic cleansing of Gaza would be the precursor to the clear attempt today to annex the West Bank. The ethnic cleansing of Palestine, ongoing since 1948, has never been clearer. I never imagined we could see Palestinian men, women, and children detained, tortured, raped, and killed in Israeli custody, and that many would stay silent as thousands languish in torture camps as we speak. I could not have fathomed that we would see US citizens shot in the head by Israeli snipers, and that even then the US administration would prevaricate. I never imagined that speaking up against a genocide could see you targeted, harassed, and demonized. But here we are. The Palestine liberation struggle continues to reveal to each and every one of us how connected our struggle for freedom truly is, by unmasking the charade of the systems we have been lulled into accepting. Today we gather not just to speak, but to act with the full force of history, with the strength of the freedom fighters who have preceded us, and with the fire of a people demanding justice. The struggle for Palestine is not an isolated struggle. It is the struggle of every oppressed people throughout time, from the Congo to the Caribbean, from Jamaica to Jerusalem. Aimé Césaire taught us that colonization dehumanizes both the colonizer and the colonized. Palestine today is a living testament to that truth. The colonizer clings to power, justifying violence and land theft, while the colonized are dispossessed, their very existence seen as inconvenience. But Césaire also reminded us that resistance is the answer. Say it with me. Resistance is the answer. That the thing to be done is to set man free. We take solace from the words of the late great Toni Morrison, who said the function of freedom is to free someone else. You stand here today as free as it gets. This is as free as it gets, people. We have our own struggles, but make no mistake, the freedom that we have here is not the freedom to consume. It is not the freedom to be complacent. It is the freedom to liberate. Do not squander it. So today we stand united and we say to Palestine, freedom is coming. Say it with me. Freedom is coming. It's coming through boycotts. It's coming through divestment, and it's coming through sanctions. Say it with me. Boycotts, divest, sanctions. But this fight goes beyond the borders of Palestine, and never forget that. Marcus Garvey told us to never wait for others to give us our freedom. Freedom is always fought for. It is never handed to you. It is never handed to you. And as our very own freedoms are eroded, remember that it is now ours to reclaim. We've seen a limited arms embargo. It's the beginning. It's far from enough. Just as Patrice Lumumba declared that Africa will write its own history, Palestine will write its own history. Free from occupation, free from apartheid, and free from surveillance. From Ferguson to Gaza, from the streets of London to the refugee camps in the West Bank, we are all connected by one struggle. It's time to consolidate the ranks, people. I'm being tapped out, but Lumumba, Césaire, Garvey, they knew that no change comes without courage. I call on you today to find your courage. Dig deep. Say it with me. No justice. No justice. No justice. Power to the people. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Our final speaker of today's demonstration is the director of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, one of the organisers of today's march. Please give a very warm welcome to Ben Jamal.
Thank you. Friends, you know that all week we have faced attempts by the Metropolitan Police to intimidate us, to place restrictions on this march which would have made it unworkable, attempts to deter people from marching today. You know that we stood strong and that the police backed down. And there is a reason, friends, there is a reason why collectively we were able to achieve that. It is because of the strength and size of our movement, because we were able to make it clear to the police that whatever the attempts to repress you, the people, would march. Whatever the attempts to repress you, the people, would not be silenced. And whatever the attempts to repress you, the people, would come, not in your hundreds, not in your thousands, but in your tens and hundreds of thousands. And today we have marched again, 125,000 strong. Friends, as the director of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and as a Palestinian, I thank you. 125,000 strong, or according to the Metropolitan Police, 1,305 strong. Now I know why you still march. You know why you still march. We march because 11 months in, the genocide is continuing. We march because Israel continues to massacre innocent men, women and children in Gaza. We march because Israel continues to colonize the West Bank and unleash violent settlers to intimidate and oppress the indigenous Palestinian population. And we march because every Palestinian from the river to the sea still lives under a system of apartheid. And we march because our government and our public bodies and our companies and corporations continue to be complicit with that system of oppression. Now this week we all saw the government forced to suspend the licenses for the sale of some weapons to Israel. We welcome that move, but it is not enough. It means that the government, having admitted that Israel is breaching international law, is shamefully prepared to continue selling it weapons, including parts for the F-35 combat aircraft, revealed this week to have been used on Palestinians in al-Mawasi in July of this year, killing over 90 and injuring more than 300. But be clear, the only reason the government has taken this step, limited as it is because of the pressure of this movement. So we need to keep that pressure up, not just on the government, but on local councils who continue to invest billions of pounds in complicit companies, including arms companies supplying the weapons used to commit genocide. We at the Palestine Solidarity Campaign are ramping up our campaigns, calling for those local councils to divest. Last month, Walton Forest Council announced that its pension fund will divest from all complicit companies. Last month, Islington Council, under pressure from local activists, dropped its contract with Barclays Bank. So friends, when you get home today, look on PSC's website on how you can join campaigns targeting your local council, but we also have to keep the pressure up on those companies directly themselves. Next Thursday, on September the 12th, we are holding the next action, calling on people to close their accounts with Barclays Bank. So far, nearly 4,000 people have answered that call. We need thousands and thousands more of you. But most of all, friends, we have to keep ramping up the pressure on Keir Starmer. On September the 21st, we are taking this national march to Liverpool, to the doors of the Labour Party conference. Now, I am reliably informed by my friends in Liverpool that the biggest march in Liverpool's entire history was 100,000 people strong. On September the 23rd, first we need to beat that record to make clear to Keir Starmer we will not accept empty gestures. We demand a full arms embargo. We demand an end to all military, political and economic support for Israel's system of oppression. And then, friends, on October the 12th, we want you all back here, not in your hundreds of thousands, but 1 million strong, when we stand in solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters to mark 1 year of their resistance to genocide. Friends, the Palestinian people will never
give up their struggle for liberation. Our task remains to stand shoulder to shoulder with them until the day arrives when they enjoy what is their birthright: freedom, justice and equality in their historic homeland. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Thank you.
London, thank you so much for coming out today. 125,000 strong. When you're leaving the demo, please make sure you're leaving safely. Please avoid High Street Kensington Station, which is behind me. Please avoid High Street Ken. We'd suggest that you leave across Hyde Park or back that way towards Knightsbridge or South Kensington, but please avoid coming this way. Left across the park, thank you. Sorry, yeah, got my lefts and rights mixed up. And please make sure that you're joining us at our local days of action over the next few weeks, at our divestment from Barclays Day on September the 12th, and then please do join us on September the 21st in Liverpool. And finally, we will see you back here again on October the 12th, back in central London, marking 1 year of Palestinian resistance to genocide. That has got to be absolutely massive, so please bring everyone you know, especially if there's someone who you know believes in this cause, who hasn't made it to a march yet. Please make sure they are here on October the 12th. Thank you very much for coming. Please get home safely, take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the 21st of September when we take this march to the Doors of Labour Party Conference in Liverpool. Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea!